Hello and welcome to Conscious Living, Navigating in Times of Change. And here I'm focusing in this short presentation on the following questions. How can we gain more clarity in today's confusing and chaotic times? How can we live a self-determined, free and fulfilled life? And how can we transform our view of ourselves and our view of the world? My name is Rolf. I'm a coach and mentor for transformational processes, and I'm living at Redland Bay here in Queensland. So what I want to share with you, my own map or guideline that I have created for conscious living or the Great Awakening, which can assist you to what I call an external awakening and an internal awakening. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, there are three fundamental questions each and every one of us should ask ourselves and investigate if we want to navigate our times in this challenging, if we want to navigate during these challenging times. First is, who am I? And the second question, and why am I here? And then how can I find peace and happiness? And if you deeply investigate into those three important and life-changing questions, you will come to what I call an external awakening and an internal awakening. It's not, from my experience, from my point of view, it's not enough to know who you are as aware presence, which is an internal awakening. But I find it, especially during these times, especially important to navigate our way in the world, to know what's going on, to know how to respond to chaos and confusion, and not to be deceived and manipulated through, well, let's call it the matrix, the 3D reality. Especially in the so-called awakened community, I so often see people falling into the traps and the lies and the manipulation in the matrix, and still acting for and on behalf of what they call the person. And here I believe it's very important to distinguish and know the difference between public and the private. So when you ask yourself the question, who am I? Are you the roles you're playing? The identifications with things and roles? Or are you really a person? Do you refer yourself as a person? Do you know what that really means? It means that you are a bonded surety to a bankrupt nation state. Is that what you really want to refer when you talk about a person? Or are you actually a man or a woman living in the private? There's a huge difference. Or if you dive deeper into that rabbit hole, you come to realize that what you really are is the living being with sovereign integrity. So that's what I call an external awakening, knowing how to navigate within the 3D reality. And then, of course, more an internal awakening, asking yourself, am I the body or the mind? Or am I essentially aware, unlimited, ever-present awareness? The internal awakening leads to a sense of stability, and an external awakening is finding truthful information. And according to that truthful information, finding out who you are and how you can live in the world as a living being with sovereign integrity instead of a person. So here's my map for the Great Awakening. And I distinguish here 3 levels or 3 frequency bands one has to move through. The first one is inner work, doing our inner work in finding and recognizing and accepting our shadow aspects. And shadow work means, in the end, nothing to promote, nothing to defend. I know my individual triggers and I integrate them and I transcend them. That leads to a higher frequency band, if you want, which I call mastering my or our creative potential, because we're all born with an enormous creative potential, which we need to unlock and master and express in this world. I think that's what we're here for. And finally, on a very high frequency band or frequency level or consciousness level, if you want, wider levels of consciousness, it's how to embody or learning how to embody what it actually means, aware presence. So there are horizontal layers or levels of frequencies, but I'm also referring to 3 vertical layers of awakening. One I call self-reflection, the other one self-knowing, and self-awareness. And what shapes our experience in this 3-dimensional reality is formed through the mind, the body, and the world. There's nothing else. That's our experience. We experience mind, we experience body, we experience the world. Now, what do we know of the mind? Essentially, the mind is a dynamic of thinking and imagining. And it's based on concepts, beliefs, conditionings, just a few examples. The mind as such is a dynamic of thinking and imagining. Now, the body, what do we know really of the body? This thing here, made of a little bit of perception. If I look down, I can see my arms. But ultimately, what I know of my body, my personal individual experience, is all about the dynamic of sensing and feeling. Sensing and feeling, referring also to morals, values, what I sense inside this, what I call the body, and feelings or emotions. And then finally, what shapes our experience is the world. What do we know of the world? In essence, it's the dynamic of perceiving, sense perception, seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, and sensing. Sorry, tasting. Shaped by worldviews, perceptual filters. So when the lens of our perception is cleansed, we can discover beauty again. That's why I've written on top there, beauty. When we're clear about our sensing and feelings, about our emotions, we can rediscover love again. Love in a wider sense. Love is the true essence of who we are. And we can discover our freedom again, or unlocking our freedom, because that's also what we truly are. Beauty, love, and freedom. Those 3 words are interconnected. This is our essence. So let's start with self-reflection and to uncover again our freedom, because we are all born free. There's nothing we have to earn, nothing we have to learn. We might have to learn how to recognize our shadow aspects, how to integrate and transcend and transform our challenges, because here it's all about facing our challenge, our main challenge. And I call it the collective shadow of victimhood. It's our greatest challenge. That blocks us from realizing that we are free, sovereign beings. And here it's about the belief, the deeply seated belief in powerlessness. So we need to ask ourselves, am I really a victim of what I call a heartless system? And when I self-reflect, when I'm mindful and catch myself blaming and complaining, because that's a dynamic of a victim. Victimhood is constant blaming and complaining. Then I'm mindful, I can recognize my part in the collective shadow of victimhood. It's about the dynamic between what I call I and the system, or the system of control, call it the matrix of control. Our suffering, we need to transform by recognizing the next collective shadow aspect, which I call separation or fragmentation. It's based on the belief in lack and inadequacy, or fear, one word for it. It's a constant reinforcement into lack, scarcity, not enough time, not enough money, not enough love, not enough this and that. So, and inadequacy, I'm not good enough. I have to constantly improve personal development, you know. And that's all based on the belief in lack and inadequacy. That is how the collective shadow of separation and fragmentation is expressing itself. And here we need to ask ourselves, beyond a sense of separation and fragmentation, what is our shared reality? It's a deep dive into finding out and inquiring into that important question. What is our shared reality? And the dynamic, like with victimhood, blaming, complaining, here is resisting and seeking. Oneself is resisting what is and seeking what is not. Resisting, blaming, complaining, everything that appears in the present moment as a so-called fragment randomly appearing in what we call reality or this world. It's a relationship between what I call I, or myself, and others. In a sense, other bodies. Yeah. Obviously, our shared reality is not the body. That's quite obvious. But what is it that is our shared reality? It's a deep dive into transforming our suffering, moving beyond fear towards love. The next collective shadow aspect are called forgetting. That's how we can transcend our dilemma of forgetting. We have forgotten who we truly are. We have forgotten that our essence is not based in materialism. And because it is the deep-seated, deeply rooted belief in materialism, that we're born in a pre-existing universe and that our reality is based on this body, and that we share the limits and the destiny of this body. You know, we are born, that when life sort of starts, that's our belief, and our life ends when we leave this body, or this body is not living anymore. But is that really true? Is that our experience? It's another deep dive into transcending our dilemma of forgetting of who we truly are. Is matter the cause of our experience, or is consciousness the cause or the root cause of our experience? It's an interesting question and a deep dive. And here, the dynamic of attacking and defending is constantly reinforcing this belief in materialism. I am this body, a separate entity in this world. I'm a victim. I need to defend myself because I equate myself as the body. I think I'm the body. The body needs protection. The body is vulnerable and it needs protection. Therefore, I have to defend against any form of attack. And the best defense is attack. So attack, defense, attacking, defending. Watch out for that dynamic in your life. And it is a relationship again between I and the world of matter. So these are the three collective, call them collective, shadow aspects, which needs to be investigated, and we need to learn how to undo those basic beliefs, the belief in powerlessness, the belief in lack and inadequacy, and the belief in materialism. Let that sink in. If we've done our work, our inner work, we come to the next level. Slowly, next frequency levels are opening up, leading to mastering our creative potential. And just before I touched on the three basic questions: who am I? How can I find peace? And why am I here? So then it leads to the realization what I am here in this three-dimensional world is a person. Is it a person, or is it a man or woman, or is it a living being? If you want to master your creative potential, you need to come to the deep realization that what you are is a living being with sovereign integrity. You're not a person. And how can you find peace? Because that's the main questions you could ask anyone living on this planet, anyone walking on this planet. Everyone is looking for peace and happiness. It might be expressed or turn up in different forms and shapes, but in the end, the essence of what we all want is happiness or peace. It's another word, peace and happiness. How can we find peace and happiness? We need to end resisting and seeking. We need to stop once and for all resisting what is and seeking what is not. That means living in the present moment, right now, right here, because that's all there is. And then finally, the big question, why am I here? Well, very simply, we need to wake up from the dream of forgetfulness. We need to come to realize that what I am, what you are, is not the body. It's not based in materialism. It's just something that appears in your awareness. And to embody your aware presence, you can also ask yourself an inquiry and investigate three important questions. And that is, what is the nature of awareness? What is awareness? Well, very simply put, awareness is knowing. It has a knowing quality, knowing, right? What is the nature of happiness? What's peace? Deep-seated inner peace that cannot be shaken by any experience from, let's call it, the world. And what is the nature of being? It's presence, isn't it? It's aware presence. In Sanskrit, it's called Sat Chit Ananda. You might have heard of it. Sat is presence. Chit is knowing. So knowing presence, resulting in peace. If you know that you are aware presence, if you know that deeply, deeply, knowing it and embodying it, that leads to peace, peace and happiness. The mind creates time. Time is not something that exists by itself, but I don't want to go too deep into this. But time is related to the mind, constantly relating to the past or projecting towards the future. Time does not exist in the now. And space is related to perception. Without perception, there's no space. And the Great Awakening, or the experience of waking up to who we are, is an ascending process. We're moving up towards higher and higher levels of frequencies or consciousness, but it's also a descending process. Like spirit calls us, the call of grace, the call of God in religious terms. So it's a two-way experience, ascending, descending. A deep dive number one, it's the path, what I called to uncover our freedom. It's about self-reflection leading to external awakening. It's about getting true information, the truth about what's going on in this world. So here I'm investigating and helping people to realize their or my role in the matrix of control. What is this control system? What is the world? How does it function? What's it made of? I mean, there's so much to discover. And how did we get here? And how can we get out of this control matrix so we don't fall victim anymore? How can we learn to ask appropriate questions? We need to learn to ask questions. Very important. We need to learn to recognize forms of deceptions and control. It's very subtle, but if we look closely, we can find it. And then that helps us to navigate in these times of great change. We can see then systems of manipulation and control. We need to learn to unmask the lies of the matrix. We need to uncover limiting and manipulating factors and discover strategies and solutions, and how can we claim our power so that we are not stuck in the collective shadow aspect of victimhood. The next deep dive is the path to recovering love. It's about self-knowing, leading to an internal awakening, providing me with a sense of stability. It's realizing that otherness, sense of otherness, I and the other or others, is the source of our fear and suffering. We need to investigate and inquire into what is our shared reality, as I mentioned before. We need to pay attention to how we constantly reinforce a sense of separation, and realizing the dynamics of our suffering and how to embody aware presence. How does it work? How does it work? How can I do that? It's also the art of contemplation or meditation can be very helpful, which I'll go deeper in. What is our own inner view, and what is the essence of the body? Very interesting and deep investigation. And contemplations and strategies and solutions are all part of what I do with coaching, mentoring, or coaching programs, so webinars and meetings. Deep dive number 3. It's the path of discovering beauty. It's about self-awareness, leading to internal awakening, providing me again with a sense of stability. Yeah. So what do we really know? What do we really know about the mind, the body, and the world? And how can we facilitate a shift in perception? What is consciousness? Another interesting question. What is it really? What is the difference between the knower and the known? And do we share the limits and the destiny of the body and the mind? Are we really born into a pre-existing universe? Another deep, interesting question. What is time and space? Different levels of perception. There are 3 steps to self-awareness or self-realization. And inquiring into what is the essence of our experience. Again, contemplations, strategies, and solutions are all part of how I work and how I assist people. So that was my map or guideline for the Great Awakening. I hope it made sense. That was just a quick overview about my personal path and my personal experience about what I call awakening, or internal and external awakening, which go together. So thank you for listening, and be now here.